sans dire à tout.
What's going on there, Jerk Faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a weekly live stream where we talk about news, current events. As of late, it's more of a forum for more esoteric ideas, as well as our movie review. Tonight's movie will be Facing the Crowd, starring Andy Griffith, Patricia Neal, Walter Matthau. If you are, when you hear the name Andy Griffith and you start thinking, wholesome, Andy Taylor, from Mayberry, this movie will subvert your expectations, but in the good way.
This is not the Andy Griffith show. This is
no. This isn't the Andy Griffith show movie. This is all that in the next couple of hours. With me, as ever, is the homeboy Rob.
What's going on, everybody? Good to see Andy.
Good to see you too.
It's been a long week. I feel like it's only been 1 week, but it feels like it's been like 2 or 3. To be honest.
Yeah, it's. I swear, it's just been really hectic these days for some reason.
Because I ended up working 13 out of 14 days last week.
Oh, jeez.
So, God.
Yeah, that
was fucking exhausting.
Yeah, I thought there were labor laws against that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I have a vacation starting up for a week, starting Thursday, so I'm really excited about that. I got a few errands planned to catch up on, and then a lot of movie watching. I'm gonna just kind of sit down, relax, have a good time.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Everything all right, Andy? You all right?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Okay, it's like the feed broke down something.
Oh, no. I was just looking up something. Anyways, a lot of... Yeah, it's been really busy. Just volunteering and working, and and I've been, but I mean, I have, admittedly, I have been able to sneak away and get some fishing in. So that was actually pretty nice. Last Friday, I went out to Lake Castaic with a buddy, and I was able to catch a trout. and then the following Sunday, I went out surf fishing, and I caught myself a perch.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, not at the best conditions, but still able to catch something. So
better than nothing. Yeah, I mainly was working, but I got a chance to. We had my grandmother's memorial this past weekend.
Right.
That was actually, I'll be honest, it was pretty cathartic. My grandmother, she didn't want to have a funeral or anything like that. But my dad did. He invited a bunch of her friends out, and caretakers out and stuff like that, just kind of, and her neighbors, just to kind of thank them for everything that they had done, all the help that they provided my dad, and it was actually really great hearing. Cause there's a lot of memories that I have of my grandmother, stories that I have about her, but it was really nice hearing about her from the people that lived around her, and it just it was just really it's fun hearing about my grandmother from other people, and it's a really nice day, and my wife got a chance to really get a chance to kind of understand who my grandmother was, and got to see her house, and it was just really nice, to be honest. And afterwards, my parents and I we all went out to dinner afterwards, and so that was pretty nice to be honest. Other than that, like it's mainly been work, but it's funny. I had been trying to get Joyce into the Rocky films, and she and she oh, it's so old, I don't want to watch it. And she finally sat down and watched Rocky, the first one. And she's like, wow, that was really good. I was like, yeah, I've been telling you that. It's like, well, let's watch the next one. It's like, okay. So we ended up watching the entire Rocky series over the past week. And you'll be happy to know that number 3 is her favorite, just like you, Andy. She hates 5, and she was not a huge fan of the Creed films. Like she liked them, but like she's like, it's not the same. It's like I want more Rocky.
Right. Well, it's just noting, just making a quick comment. Yeah, it's about your grandmother's passing. Yeah, it's always nice to hear about people that you know for in different contexts.
Yeah.
Because it's like especially like if it's someone who as someone such as like a grandparent, and then like you hear like this other side of this. Oh my God, they're human beings. Because I mean, because I have this, a lot of times, I have this view. I have a view of my, like, particularly of my sisters. When they, when people tell me like, oh, your sister's human too. It's like, oh no, she's not. She's my sister. Like I don't think of my sister as a person. It's like I know, and that sound, or I don't think of my sisters as people. And I know how that comes across, but it's like, they're not people to me. They're my sisters. They're more than people to me. And it's like, to hear about them in a different context is always kind of it's weird, but it's welcome as well.
Yeah, like my grandmother's such a tough lady. I mean, and a lot of people would like nowadays would see her as being kind of like mean, but that's not true. Like she like said, she's tough. She's set in her ways. She's stubborn, and like she's not the pinch your cheek and like kiss you to death type of grandma.
Give you a hard candy grandma.
Yeah. Oh no, she would give me a lot of like she would make a lot of desserts and give me like candies and stuff. But that's but not like she's not the I'm gonna hug you.
Right, not like the visage that we usually get of like the granny with the snow white hair and like the thick glasses and the like pearl necklace with like the sweater over her shoulders.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like my grandmother was very prim and proper. She, there was a certain way that she wanted to have things done. She always wanted to look her best. And the other thing too, especially after my grandfather passed away, she was a widow for almost 4 decades.
Oh wow!
And so
she really outlived your grandpa.
Yeah. So, but she was very independent. It's like she did her own thing. She did it her way, and a lot of people like they respect her for that. And it's like, God, she's so stubborn. But you like, she's not like mean. She never cuts people down or anything. That was never her style. But it was just more of she's just very like like a blunt instrument.
Yeah. Would you say that she was a very matter of fact kind of woman?
Very matter of fact. Like she did not have a filter to a certain degree. Like she would speak her mind, and I don't know, I always thought that was great about her. And yet at the same time, I always knew she loved me. It's just I'm kind of used to that. Like my wife's family, like my family is not like the good job, you little buddy. Like
your family's not as demonstrative.
Yeah, we're more stoic. And I'm okay with that. Like, and just like, why they're so mean? Like, why would it's like, honey, that's just not how my parents grew up. That's not how my grandparents are. It's just everyone in my family is like they lived through like these tough times, and that's just how they are. Like it. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure if your wife, I'm sure if your wife met my family, like my extended family, just the way that we interact with each other, she'd be like, "Do you guys even like each other?"
that's what I'm saying. Like that's like, Andy. That I think that's also why you and I get along because yeah, we're not. I mean, we share laughs. We share drinks and laughs and do shit on for the podcast and just in our own time together. But it's not like, oh, you guys, do you guys even like each other? Are you even talking? It's like we don't need to like spend every 5 seconds talking about something. Like we can enjoy the experience together. And it's like we're having a great time. It's
Yeah,
like,
no, it's. I mean, that's one of the big, uh, I guess, sticking points between me and your wife because she has this she can't she's one of those people that just can't stand silences, and so she has to fill every molecule of air
yeah,
with with talking, and just like, no, just stop. Not every single thing needs to be commented on or critiqued or you need something to be said about whatever.
yeah.
Sometimes
It's
you kind of be there, you sit there with somebody, and that's it's very again kind of like Ron Swanson's My Spirit Animal. There's like that cutaway where he's like being interviewed for like like reality TV style, where he's talking about like, yeah, I had a coworker once, we never used to talk. It's like he's one of my best friends.
yeah. That's exactly how I feel sometimes. Like just because like I don't talk like doesn't mean that I'm not enjoying my time with my friends. And yeah, it's like just us being together is more important than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think that was like what my how my grandmother was. She was, and I loved her for who she was. I thought she was great,
Mm.
and but it was just hearing that from other people too that they experienced her kind of in the same way, yet they still respected her and loved her and cared about her. So that was really great to great to see. And yeah, it was great hearing all the old stories and everything about my grandmother. So yeah, it was like I said, it was very very cathartic. It was a good experience.
Mm. That's good.
Yeah, that's been pretty much my week. It was mainly working, the memorial, and uh, watching Rocky, which is never a bad way to spend a week, I guess. Watching Rocky.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 'cause last week was Memorial Day. Yeah, I was getting over being sick, and then funny enough, on Monday on Memorial Day, I had like a stomach thing where it's like I just felt like my stomach just felt unsettled, and I was feeling nauseous, and so I mean I kind of I celebrated the day before on the Sunday. A friend invited us over to his place, and we hung out, had hot dogs, and all that stuff. But yeah, the next morning I was just my stomach is just like not in a best place, and just like feeling nauseated. It's never a good thing. Um,
No.
no. Um, yeah, and then last weekend I helped out my buddy at his shop. Um, I'll never understand people who feel like they can get away with like just being rude to people. Um, specifically, yeah, yeah. But I was watching my buddy shop for him while he went and ran an errand or whatever. And
Yeah.
this woman called, and she was asking about a repair job on on her bicycle, and uh, she said that been calling around, and or like and she said that she's taken her bicycle in to get it looked at and fixed, and like they like charged, she got charged, but no one, they weren't able to like fix it, and then, and I was just, I was completely polite with her, and yeah, yes ma'am, no ma'am kind of thing. And then and then I let her know,
Yeah.
like, what my buddy's shop does, and like, he's been doing it for like 13 years, and he's one of the only shops, like, in Southern California, let alone like the San Fernando Valley, that actually like fixes, um, electric bicycles. Um,
Mm.
and so she tells me the model of bike that she has, and I personally haven't heard about it, and I told her as such, but I was gonna assure her, was like, oh, don't, I may not have heard of it, but I'm sure, my buddy, he has, and he's been doing it forever, so he'll be able to fix it, no problem. But she but then she cuts me off and like said, well, if you haven't heard of it, then you don't know shit, and she hung up on me.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and I mean, and
Like even like
and and I'm pretty sure it was an older lady, and like she had, and I'm sure I don't have to describe it so much, but you could tell like this, like the crotchetiness, like you could detect the crotchetiness in her voice, you know.
yeah, like
And
there's a level of people who do stuff like that. It's like why would you go through life just being so bitter towards everything? I mean, it's just I don't get it. And
right, and I mean, yeah, just to give this lady some credit, like maybe she has been jerked around. Okay, I completely understand if you've been jerked around in the past, and you ponied up money to only be told like, oh yeah, we can't fix it. Yeah, I completely grant compassion for that, but just like someone I wasn't being rude to her, and I was explaining my I was honest about my limited knowledge of electric bicycles.
yeah,
And but then I was trying to assure her that my friend, he could handle it. But like she just wasn't having any of it, and then like because I personally don't know much about bicycles, and it's like, oh, then like you're going to cast aspersions on my friend.
yeah. Trust me, Andy. I get people like that every day.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, at my work, God, working the front counter. Like literally today, there was this lady that came up, and sometimes like when with like sometimes like when like new neighborhoods are being like put up, and so like it hasn't like our system that like has all that data, it hasn't yet. So like we'll be mailing something somewhere. It's like it's not really coming up in the system. It's like are you sure that this is like a viable address? Like just because it's not coming up in the system now, like I said, if you're assuring me that it's a good address, I can just kind of just bypass all that and it'll be good to go. But what I would hate to do is for you to pay for this postage and for it to like just go nowhere. And she got in all huff about like, well, yeah, it is a real address. How dare you tell me it doesn't exist? It's like, man, I'm not telling you that it doesn't exist. I'm just letting you know what our concern is on our end. All I'm saying is like, is it a good address? If you say yes, I'm going to bypass everything. Just it's okay. It's like why are you getting so worked up? Like I'm trying to help you. I
Right.
just
Yeah.
don't get it.
Yeah. Because I mean, if this woman is local, like she lives in the San Fernando Valley, then
Well, mailing to some like
well,
in
no,
some
no, well,
other
okay,
like
just yeah. But going back to my
yeah,
situation, like if this woman that called my buddy's shop, if she's local, she lives in the San Fernando Valley, she's gonna have a really hard time trying to find another e-bike shop that actually do repairs, because my buddy was telling me like how all these other e-bike shops around the valley, they're closing down because like they could sell them, but they can't fix them.
Don't fix them.
Exactly. And so like this lady, she's gonna call around. Yeah, like I don't know like how many other bike shops she called or like been to, and like she got screwed over. But you know, my buddy's bike shop, if like it's the only one. It's the only oasis in the desert. And you know, sooner or later, she's gonna come back to us. And you know, if I have to, and if I'm the one that engages her with her again, then you know, of course, all compassion in the world. You know, no hard feelings. I get it, but but you know, she's really serious about getting her bike fixed. Then she will be returning.
Yeah, because there's like literally nowhere else for her to go.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, but to your example, it's like because like she's getting mad at like it's not like you are saying like, oh well, I don't know this, you know, this if this address exists. Like I'm telling you what the computer's telling me. Maybe it's not in our system. You know, our database might be, you know, not up to date. And like let me you know work it out with you.
Yeah. And I was like, that's all we're trying to do is I'm just trying to help you out. I just want to make sure that your package gets to where it's supposed to be going and you don't waste your money. It's like, God damn, lady, you had to spend 5 seconds.
And I've had my fair share of nightmare clients too. Or just even in like the negotiation stages, where when I because I do photography. You know, people like basically asking for the moon, but like trying to pay me Greyhound bus fare.
We would like to use your photos in perpetuity.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Accent.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because I think I told this story, but I was approached by this advertising agency.
Yeah.
You know that they wanted to use like a picture of my dad for some gym like up in like the Northeast, like like I think Massachusetts, Boston.
Now, was he the before or after photo?
I don't know, but it was like they're like looking to do like a Father's Day sort of.
Oh, right, okay.
A Father's Day sort of ad campaign, and so they wanted to license one of my like a photo of my dad that they saw on my Instagram or my website. I forget which one. And so I was like, okay, cool, yeah, I'm down. I'm down to do that. And so they sent me the licensing agreement, and I gave it the once over, and they assured me, it's like, oh yeah, we just want to use it for like a season, just for like this limited campaign for that Father's Day. I was like, okay, for sure. And so I read the agreement, and then it said like in perpetuity, like forever, like you we'll own this image. I was like, no. That's not the agreement. Licensing is you have the right to use this image, but you don't own it.
Right. It's like I'm giving you the ability to use it during your ad campaign, but like once that's done, sorry, that's my photo.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you're not paying me for ownership of.
Yeah, you're paying me for usage.
You're paying me for like the usage of it for a limited time, but what you're saying is that you're gonna own it forever. Yeah. Fuck you.
Exactly, and I wasn't even a dick about it. I just said, hey, this is pretty standard agreement, but this can we please change this in perpetuity to duration of campaign.
Yeah.
And then so. And before that, we were having a pretty, nice, even, back and forth. But then as soon as I said that, as soon as I, advocated for myself, it's just like, nope, no more, radio silence.
Oh, you're one of those learned cripples.
I
know. You're not one of those, like the brain retarded. You're a brain crippled. You're a smart cripple.
Yeah.
Like, you can read. The fuck, man. Fuck that. I really hate these people who like try to like stuff that shit like in the middle of a contract, expecting you not to read it, and it's like, no, this is not. No, you don't own my shit in perpetuity because now you. Fuck that shit.
Yeah. I mean, and again, like if it was just like a picture, if it was just a picture of a mountain or a sunset or whatever, I might have just been like, okay, fine, whatever, and take the money.
Picture,
but it's a picture of my
come on.
dad. It's a picture of somebody I love, and saying that, like, they own that picture of my dad forever. It's like, no,
Sorry, Dad, they own you.
I know. I was like, sorry, Dad, they own you now. I signed away your likeness.
Yeah.
I hope that's not a problem to you.
They gave me 3 beans. Some magic.
I know. It's like, yeah, this guy, they totally told me that they gave me these magical beans that it'd be the answer to all our troubles. Yeah, but it's. I mean, being an artist, it's really hard, especially because people are trying to get something from you for nothing. And I remember I used to like write, blog posts and stuff like on that topic. I remember I put up like what is it? I forgot what the word is called. Kind of like a play. And so, like, I put up the dialogue, and like me as like the artist, and me trying to go pay my utilities bill with like a bag full of like those googly eyes, and then they're like the utilities people are like what is this? This is just googly eyes. Like, no, that's actually the exposure that I got for having my photo on such and such website, and this is like how many clicks they got. Which translates to eyes, so I should be able to pay you with that.
So I think what you need to do, Andy, is you need to get a black turtleneck, get some frosted tips in your hair, and just start stapling banana peels to a canvas, and talking about how transcendent it all is, and maybe you'll make more money doing it.
Yeah, all Men in Black. Men in Black 3. It's like, hey, you gotta get me out of here. I'm running out of ideas. I'm painting soup cans and bananas. Oh my god, that's why I really enjoy alternative like histories. Like, I know this is like more like absurd because it's like Men in Black. It's like Andy Warhol as like a Men in Black agent, and it's like he's
Andy Warhol's one of us.
I know Andy.
It's like, oh, Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
He's the alien. It's like,
like, come on, okay, you gotta get me out of here. I'm running out of ideas. It's like if I have to listen to sitar music anymore.
It's like I'm watching a man eat a burger.
A burger. It's transcendent. Now the pickles, sir. Oh man,
that scene makes me laugh so hard.
I know I'm pretty sure that was like improvised. Because who's the actor that plays the Andy Warhol character?
Bill Hader.
Yeah, Bill Hader. Bill Hader's so funny.
Bill Hader is actually a very fascinating guy. He has a lot of range, to be honest. Yeah, he does like a lot of comedy and stuff like that. But his movie knowledge is actually really he's actually really knowledgeable when it comes to film. But yeah, like he just finished up doing this series. I think it's on Showtime called Barry, and a lot of people rave about it, saying it's really good. It's more of like this kind of like dark. I mean, it's a dark comedy, but like he's more like playing a serious role in it. But yeah, that guy is actually he's very talented.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't get like nearly as much credit, I think, but yeah, I always liked Bill Hader.
Yeah, he's one of the guys on SNL that was like, yeah, this guy is talented. Like he's gonna go somewhere. But yeah, that's what you need to do. You need to be more like Andy Warhol. Just take on, do some take on Andy Warhol, and you'll make like millions of dollars.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because I always said, if I was to become like one of those pretentious kind of artists, I'd go by my my previously given name, which was Han William. I'd be, Han William.
Oh, there. Yeah, that's your artist name right
That's
there.
my artist name right there, Han William. It's like
Hello.
everything's so transcendent.
This is.
It's like I'm filming a man eating a hamburger.
When you look upon this, it's Nirvana.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you wouldn't believe how many people like you think like they're like they're wackos. Like it's all just a front.
It is. I am convinced that it. Well, I mean, I feel like you're.
Like those like those eccentric artist types, like when they're out in public, they're playing a part.
Yeah, they're actors.
Yeah, I mean, essentially yes, but like they're like the whole, but like they're like the whole art is not like what they create; it's their performance and how they interact with people. I know that seems like really heady and stuff, but like I'm like Batman. I'm like I was trained in the league of of shadows. I know all their tricks.
Yeah.
But I just didn't become one of them.
It's all bullshit, Andy, and it's. But honestly, I respect the hustle. I respect it.
I know, because
they have.
I know this to be true because there was a classmate who I had who. Like he had like he put on airs like kind of like the typical like young person like smoke weed and like wear like dress very flamboyantly, but like one time like he broke character, and I heard his actual voice, and just and it wasn't like and he didn't sound like how he was presenting as, and I was like, oh okay, you're playing a part.
Yeah, exactly. He's just gonna like twerk for social justice, but that's the front. Yeah. Oh man, yeah, but that's it. You need to develop that side of yourself. Just make character.
I don't know. I know I could, but it'd be so exhausting.
Yeah.
It'd be just so exhausting and just like being constantly on. It's my worst nightmare.
And then I'd be there like as like your assistant, but then I would always be trying to make you break character, just saying like the most like ridiculous shit.
Oh gosh. Oh, sorry. I just got a text from somebody, and I'll tell you. I'll tell you after the stream.
All right.
I mean, it's nothing terribly bad, but it's just like one of those like
I hear you.
face palm kind of moments. But anyways, yeah. Yeah, people are assholes, but just sometimes you just have to, the best response to assholes is not being an asshole, but just be compassionate.
Yeah, that's part of my problem is like, oh, you want to asshole me? It's like I'm gonna out asshole you.
I know, but yeah, I mean, for me, because those of you who are watching, I'm an asshole, but I think I've come a long way to where now, like, if you only get the asshole out of me if you're being exceptionally an asshole back to me.
That's usually like I'm probably at that level now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I kind of
because it's not like the young days where it's like where it's like I have to like constantly like I have to constantly put people in their place and just like ants it's like fight fire with fire, but I'm becoming more tempered in my old age.
Yeah, it takes a lot for me to really blow my top.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of times, like, I mean, it doesn't happen always, but I try to remember, like, however these people are acting towards me, I know it's not personal, and it's like, unless they take it to that personal place, and even then, like, it has to be several steps, like, over the line before I respond in kind.
I have found that when it comes to like people like, talking shit to me or whatever, it's like most of the time I'm just like, or whatever. It's just that's just how it is. But when you start like bringing that, like if someone is like really rude to my wife or like to my friends, like if they were like really rude to you for some reason, like and I'm hanging out with them, like they're this like all of a sudden they're being really nasty to you. That's what I was like. That really pisses. That would make me blow my top. It's like, dude,
Right.
you don't get the fuck out
Right,
of
but
here.
yeah, but even
Shit.
still, like I would, it would still have to be several measures over the line for people. Like even in like if it was in defense of somebody else, it would still have to be over like like it'd still have to be several steps over the line before I retaliated.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I'm just saying, like for me, that I think that drives me more crazy than like someone saying fucked up shit to me.
Mm-hmm. Right, and it's like in that that's how you know that there's such a thing as injustice. Because there's times like I'll watch video. Like I remember when like crazy. When it was first starting to get like pretty crazy. You know, um, there's some sort of scene outside of you know the man's Chinese theater in Hollywood. And
Mm-hmm.
this is after the election, and there's like literally a homeless woman being bullied by a bunch of like Zoomers, like young people, because like she made a sign in support of Trump.
That's
You know,
some. Yeah,
and
that's
that was like
fucking.
some bullshit. Here's like this woman who's like homeless. Like she was literally you know on the bottom of the social pecking order, right? And then you have like these entitled kids, like literally and physically bully her, like and like that made like watching that made my like blood boil. Like I wanted to like slit every one of them their throats.
And it's like who cares? Like
Yeah, this is
it
a
has
woman
nothing
who has
to do.
no power, no influence in society, and you're bullying and you're picking on her for like a political view, which in LA would be considered a minority.
I feel the same way. Like even if she had like a Biden sign or whatever, it's like, dude, leave that woman alone. Don't.
Right? Yeah.
You know,
I mean, yeah. Let's switch up the context and say, I mean, it wouldn't happen. I mean, if it did, it would be like super super rare. But let's flip it and say that that woman was holding a Biden a sign in support of Biden. All like these Trump supporters, same thing. My sense of injustice would still be um, uh,
it's because like that
like
lady's not doing
aroused. I don't
anything
want
to
to say
anybody.
aroused, but
Yeah, because the lady's not. It's not like because we there are the even like the really crazy like homeless people. It's really not like it's you have to defend yourself in certain cases, but it's not their fault. Like their mind is just I mean they're seeing like the seventh level of hell demon like in front of them because they I don't know whether it be through like drug usage or whatever, they're like hallucinating or they're having all sorts of whatever. But like there are like there are homeless people that aren't crazy. They're just down on their luck. And she happens to support like a certain political candidate and you have these entitled, assholes that would come and like, try to, harass her or beat her up. And it's like, that it doesn't matter what that is. Like that just, I'm with you, man. That makes my blood boil too. It's like, don't just fucking leave that person alone.
yeah, and yeah, it's because again, like this woman is literally at the bottom of the social pecking order. She has no power. She has no influence. She has nothing, and yet the only thing that she can have are her opinions. And you're like and there's like kids with kids
You're
relatively, but like they had Beats headphones and like they had they had iPhones and they had their nice sneakers or their Yeezys or whatever, and they're bullying this homeless woman because of her opinion. Yeah,
yeah, that's
I mean this it's I'm not proud of it, but yeah, I wanted to I want to go down there and slit all their throats.
I don't blame you, dude. I'm right there with you.
I mean, hot take, but yeah, I'm not. Again, I'm not advocating for violence, but that's how much my blood was boiling seeing that scene. It's I want to go there and slit all the throats.
When you go out of your way to stomp on the downtrodden like that, you honestly, there's a special level of hell just for you. Just I can't stand people who do that.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if I took a beat, maybe I would, I could have collected myself, but yeah, my blood was boiling over.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it right now. I'm so mad. It's
Yeah, I mean, they
that
literally were physically intimidating her, and she just kind of went possum mode and played started playing dead. She was lying there, just on the sidewalk, and people were still yelling in her face, telling her how she was hateful and she was racist, and on and on and on. It's again, this is a homeless woman. She literally has nothing, and here are all these fucking entitled kids with their Beats headphones, with their iPhones, with their Yeezys, and on and on and on, yelling at this woman for dare going against their you know. Their political ideology.
Yeah, it happens more often than you would think, man. It's crazy. Our political climate is so strange right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yeah, and I mean, even if they were to, by magic, by a flip of the switch, and they, and the Democrats became more moderate or whatever, it would have already been too late.
Mm.
The boulders are already rolling down the hill. But there's no way of stopping it now.
No, there's no way. It's already it is tumbled. It's tumbling down the mountain as we speak. There's no stopping it.
Exactly. It's already at well, I know it's not falling, but it's basically at terminal velocity. It's at its absolute the boulder is at its absolute fastest, and
Yeah.
there's no way to turn it back. There's no way to stop it.
Well, speaking of terminal velocity boulders, why don't we get into our topics? And I think you actually have. I think it's a good transition, the topic that you were wanting to bring up.
Yeah, that's what you're.
I think there sanity is gaining momentum in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. As y'all know, this is this is the month of absolute debauchery. Let's just call it what it is. But yes, it's officially Pride Month, and um, but this year it seems a little more toned down, in certain respects. I know there's things that are way turned up, particularly in the halls of California legislation. Um, but in terms of culture, I think there is some pushback this year, in that a lot of companies and organizations, what is typical is as soon as that clock strikes midnight, on is it May 31st?
Yeah, as soon as it's like Cinderella at the ball. It's
Yeah,
like we gay now.
yeah, it's like we gay now. Yeah, as soon as the clock strikes midnight, it goes in from May 31st to June 1st. Everyone, all avatars, on social media immediately transition to the rainbow colors.
First, it's because all these damn PR people. They're all like this. They all probably graduated from like the same college or like
Yeah,
same type
they all graduated with the same underwater basket weaving degree.
and so it's like they have to, make their stake in it's, but they all think the same way. It's
Right.
funny because this is gonna play into like our movie too a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the it's even like like NASCAR is getting into that, and like I said, this has nothing to do with like, oh, I hate gay people. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But there's a certain limit where it's like, is it really? And we talked about this last week too, where all these companies say like, oh yeah, we're this, we're that, we care. Oh, it's like, no, they don't. Okay, like honestly, like if tomorrow, if it was taboo to like all the pride stuff was super taboo. It was super fashionable to be like this other thing that's like anti that. In a fucking heartbeat that they would throw that rainbow shit out the goddamn window, and they would embrace something else.
Yeah,
to this soulless.
Right. To
machine.
argue the other side, because all of a sudden became, in fashion to be patriotic again, and and then as soon as July hit and every all companies switched their logos to red, white, and blue, then yeah, it'd be the same thing. And
It is the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. And again, and again, we would be calling it out as such, as the pandering that it is.
And because we don't like pandering, it's like just sell us the fucking product already. All right, like if it's a good product, we'll buy it. If it's not, fuck it. Or if you have immoral practices, like maybe you have like
child
slave
labor or.
Yeah, maybe we're not going to buy that product, which is I'm trying to be like a little bit more conscious of that. Like, yeah, I don't want to be associated with. That's actually why I stopped buying. There's certain like brands of like, shoes I stopped buying because of that. Like I don't buy Nikes anymore because that's all assembled by like child labor or slave labor, depending. Because a lot of it's, I think they assemble a lot of it in China, and yeah, it's really terrible what they do to these people. They're selling these shoes for hundreds of dollars, and they're paying these people like 5 cents an hour, which is ridiculous.
Right.
And
but yeah,
instead of being like, yeah, it's. But this is kind of like in the same vein. Like you have these companies that like, oh yeah, we're proud. We're showing our pride for this, and it's like for the month of June. And as soon as month of June is over, fuck those people because we're going back to normal.
Right.
So,
but yeah, but at least this year there seems to be some pushback in that a lot of these companies that you would think of like Xbox or MLB or Nike, they put up their obligatory avatar picture change or or banner picture change for Pride, but quietly a few days later they reverted back to the previous or the standard avatar picture or banner picture. One example that sticks out the most is your old stomping grounds, the Navy. The Navy they had they changed their banner to like the jets with like the streaks of like the rainbow, but then they got pushback for it, and then because they're literally doing the meme of like the B-52, and it has like all of the left wing like slogans and things like that, dropping bombs on people. Like they literally did that meme with the fighter jets with the rainbow streaks. And it's like, and they're getting all sorts of ridicule for it, and so like they quietly like switched it back to like the standard avatar and picture. And I think people people honestly have just had enough, of it constantly in their face. It's like, and constantly being told that these people are marginalized or they're oppressed. And it's like, how oppressed are they if we say a single syllable or single syllable, opposing them, then we can have our lives canceled. Like we lose our jobs, we lose the ability to bank, we lose the ability to interact on the digital town square that is Twitter and social media in general. How are they oppressed exactly?
That's where it's like, yeah, I think the real harbinger of this was the whole Bud Light issue. Like that, I think that went a little too far, where people are like, "Well, fuck this."
Right. Well, I mean,
Like,
I think the groundswell really was the whole, drag time story hours that
well,
they're having.
but that's been
But
going
yeah,
on.
but I think, but yeah, but and I think and it was like slowly come in. Then people were slowly starting to get it, with like the whole like school board stuff as well. But yeah, I do think the Bud Light Dylan Mulvaney incident was
That was the
the
boiling
was the
point.
impotence. Yeah, that was the boiling point. Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Because it had been yeah, you're right, because it had been happening with that. It's like, wait, no, this is not cool. I mean, there's been drag shows forever, but it's more of like that was meant to be like more of like an adult like
Yeah, after kind of like after hours, for adults only, places with like 2 drink minimums, that sort of thing. But now there's like putting it in our faces, and what's more troubling is they're sticking it in our the children's faces.
Your little boy stuffed this $5 bill on that man's G-string and touched cock, by the way, and maybe tickle his balls a little bit. It's like, no, that's no. And then they're turning, some of the now we had that kid who went on like ABC and all the news junkets and talking about how he's a drag kid, and like they're essentially prostituting him for money in a lot of ways. That kid's been abused.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not saying that like, hey, if you wanna be weird and dress up in women's clothes and dance in like burlesque shows and all that shit, hey, if you're an adult, like, to be honest, I really don't give a shit. That it was kind of like this like weird like niche thing that was kind of like fun for people to enjoy, but like now you're starting to bring like innocent people into that. It's like, just like I wouldn't like, I'm not gonna bring like my 10-year-old kid to like some strip club. It's also weird. To be honest, I don't want to go to a strip club because I would think that everything is like really fucking sticky and gross. Just like I don't watch porn with like other guys. Like it's fucking weird.
Right. I mean, I understand the necessity back in the day when all you had was like a VHS and like one TV. But like like the idea of a porno theater is just verboten. It's just repugnant.
Dude,
now. It's repugnant. It's repugnant.
Because I rewatched Taxi Driver not that long ago, and Travis Bickle always goes to those like fucking like,
the porno theaters.
That has got to be one of the weirdest fucking things, and it's funny too because every cut I've seen of that movie, they blur out the porno.
The porno, yeah.
I don't know if Scorsese did that on purpose or if it's just like, we are not showing this whatsoever. And so they blur it out, like the whoever's streaming it or whatever is just blurring it out. I wonder if there's an unrated cut, like where you actually get to see parts of the movie that Travis Bickle's watching.
Another reason why owning physical media is so important is
I actually that might be a reason why I'm gonna buy that movie. Just I'm so curious to see if that was purposely done by the director or it's or not. But yeah, but it's kind of like, kids don't belong in those places. And kids don't need to know about that stuff. Like I said, as you grow older, you're gonna find out about it eventually.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, and like in Florida, the supposed "Don't Say Gay" bill, You know, like that one teacher was having a conniption saying like, oh, like what if my kids like ask me what I did for the weekend? I can't. Well, I'm not supposed to say like, oh yeah, I went paddleboarding with my boyfriend. It's
I
like,
sucked off my boyfriend.
yeah, and then like yeah, and then we paddled ourselves into like a little cove, and then he totally did me in the asshole. No, you could just say, oh, I just went out, I just went paddleboarding this weekend.
It was
It's like these people don't understand. These people don't have an understanding or conception of propriety. It's like you don't have to go into detail about your shit. You could just stop it at the surface level. Be like, oh yeah, I went paddleboarding this weekend. That's it. That's all you have to share. No one's like there's no most kids, they'll just take whatever answer you give. Like, oh, okay. They don't need the follow up. They don't need more details than that.
Andy, I want to talk about my romantic ass fucking.
I know, right?
Just yeah, honestly, like I don't know about you growing up. I knew very very little about like my teachers.
Yeah, I didn't know jack shit. I mean, other than the fact, like, if they were a miss or a missus, and like, I knew like, whether they had a husband or not, because most of them, most of the teachers were women. So like, yeah, I didn't know. I didn't even give a shit.
Nor should you.
Although in 4th grade, I did have a pretty hot teacher. I wouldn't have minded if I, learn a little bit more.
There's always like throughout your school your primary school years, like there's always going to be that one like super hot teacher that just kind of.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, because she was also very young too. She was like 24, just out of like graduate school or whatever. And so yeah, she was a tasty slice.
I feel funny.
I know. It's like my pants are getting tighter.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like you don't know what that feeling is, nor should you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know. It's just.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and just like but another example, of this kind of like awakening, is here, right in our own backyard. There was the story of the school, this elementary school in North Hollywood, who was going to put on like a pride event or whatever, and like parents in the community and the particular makeup of that neighborhood, were Armenian and Hispanic families, and so they pushed back on it hard. Yeah, you don't mess with fucking Armenians.
No. They're like, no, that shit's gay. We don't want it.
Yeah. It's like, hey, Bobby, no gay.
A lot of the the target minorities that like, oh, they don't that that these people like are trying to like, oh yeah, like they're on our side. It's like they don't.
No, they're not.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like surface level politically, like yeah, because you helped them get into this country or whatever. You gave them benefits, whatever. Sure, okay, yeah, we'll vote for you. But the cultural stuff, fuck no, they're not. Dude, back in 2008, that first bill for gay marriage or whatever, it didn't pass because guess what? Because blacks, Hispanics, basically every other ethnic minority are very socially conservative.
Yeah.
and they voted that shit down.
Yes, sir. Yes, they did. And it's like people like they like pointed. It's like it was you, wasn't it? It's like, well, I mean, yeah, I did vote against it, but it's not because of me, man. There was more. It was. I looked at like more of like my Asian friends, or especially like the parents of my Asian friends, and like a lot of other like minority groups. Like it's because of them. They don't want this shit. Like because they know they know like that this is a slippery slope. Damned if it wasn't.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just. I think it's kind of like it's really interesting to see like this time around like all these campaigns by like certain companies, like nope, we're not into that. Like Bud Light has been way like their sales have fucking plummeted. Now I don't know if people are like buying like other Anheuser-Busch products.
I know
Without
knowing it.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is, like Bud Light is part of Anheuser-Busch, which sells a variety of different beers.
Yeah, a lot of different products.
So, but like I said, I honestly like because I've been to I buy beer fairly regularly, and yeah, everything like around Bud Light is just it
it's
is
gone.
there is so much Bud Light. It's kind of funny. Like every place because I go to several different places for that. Like the grocery store, tons of Bud Light. It's just not selling. Bevmo, True, Total Wine. These places. It's there. Like the stuff around it is pretty much sold out, but or selling back. But yeah, Bud Light is just there. And I'm actually the thing is like I like Bud Light. I think it's a good beer. It's not it's not like the fanciest of beers or whatever, but it tastes great. I like it. And it's like, but yeah, I'm just not gonna buy it. And it's all right. I can switch over to something different. It's fine with me. I am kind of sad that I couldn't buy any Busch either. That's which is like my wife is like, no, I like Busch beer. It's like I know I do too, but I don't want to support that. Like it's just until like they officially like make a statement. It's like we fucked up. We'll never do this ever again. We're just gonna sell beer. Until that day happens, I'm not gonna buy their beer.
Exactly.
I don't think that'll ever happen. To be honest.
No, I mean, because particularly for the reasons why I stated last week, or we stated last week, because of like the outside investment, the pressure that these investors are putting onto the companies themselves, and also that this whole controversy was to hide the fact that they were going to lose money anyways, and the whole Dylan Mulvaney thing was just a way to hide it, but yeah, it's like that's why I never advocate for boycotts. I might advocate for I do advocate for personal boycotts. I just say if you don't want it, I would say I'll tell people like I don't, but if you choose to, then that's you. But I choose not to, and
I'm
because I personally boycotted Starbucks. I mean, yeah, there are occasions where I do get it because it's like the only option, or someone buys it for me, and so yeah, there is. But generally speaking, I do not go to Starbucks anymore. I do not consume any like Starbucks product, and that's a personal. And I've been doing that since like their whole like, oh, let's have a conversation about racism bullshit.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And that was like what, like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even a Starbucks Gold card member anymore. That's how much I don't go to Starbucks. I mean, yeah, occasionally, I'll grab one. I'll grab a coffee on the quick, or someone gives me, a gift card, and I use it for like emergencies. But that's about it.
Yeah. Now, if someone like if I was at a bar and someone like bought me a Bud Light, so I'm not gonna be like, fuck you, man. Like,
knock it out of their hands. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, whatever. I didn't buy it personally, but if someone offered it to me, I'm not gonna turn it down. And it's the same thing. Like if I'm at a party and so hey man, like they hand me a Bud Light, I'm not like that's fucking gay. Just like throw it in their face. Like it's not gonna happen.
I know. It's like they try to like, oh yeah, here, have a Bud Light. It's like, no, that's for homos.
Yeah, yeah, that's not gonna happen. So. But like I like for my own personal usage, I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna throw my own money into a company that personally advocates for this stuff. It's just like, and where they're spitting in the face of like their prime customer base.
Mm-hmm.
That like, and that's I do that with pretty much anything. Like we always make fun of those fucking like TV shows or movies where even before they're even out, but there are certain like criticisms that like people see through like the trailers or whatever. It's like, you know, the costumes don't look right. Oh, you must be a fucking sexist. You hate, like, you know, all these damn incels hate us. It's like, no, they're fans. They are fans of your show or movie, and they are just saying that like this doesn't quite add up to the thing that they like. They didn't say that they hate women.
It's like the whole Lord of the Rings thing, you know, where you know they a fantasy series set within a fictionalized world, but definitely drawing upon Europe, distinct like European cultures. They just ham-fistedly cast like a black person. Particularly one that particularly the weird thing is like particularly one that plays a race known for living underground. Like, how are they supposed to get enough melanin to be that black?
It's not possible.
It's not possible.
It's like, I'm sorry. No, it's like, it's not because that medieval Europeans hated black people. They I guarantee that like medieval Europe, outside of maybe like some royalty, they never saw a black person or a dark-skinned person for that matter.
Right. Yeah, and like and the general population didn't even know of their existence. Like maybe like they knew what like a Moor was, but a deep like from the heart of Africa kind of black person. Like no, that's not the average European living during that time did not never seen an African like that.
Like if they saw like Charlie Murphy or like Wesley Snipes, they would have freaked the fuck out. It's like what happened to your
I know.
skin?
Oh, I was like, oh, Living Shadow.
Yeah, it's because they don't know what's going on. Like legitimately. So when I was in boot camp for like the Navy,
mm-hmm.
and for me, like I grew up in Los Angeles, so seeing someone that's not white,
mm-hmm.
it's obviously like
it's nothing new.
That's normal, nothing new. Like I've seen it all. But there are guys that were in my troop that they're from bumfuck nowhere in Kansas or someplace. They legitimately like not, and there was no hate in their heart at all. Like, but they saw people that like, oh, like I don't know, your skin's they legitimately never seen a black person before, like at all.
Right.
And they were just like, what? Like how did your skin get so dark? Like they were mesmerized.
Right. They were curious, not hateful.
Yeah. Which is, and I mean, it was just, to me, I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, really? Like, you're really that?
Right. And I mean, and this was like towards like the early to mid like aughts, and people were like, oh, how could someone not have ever like seen a black person, even at that time? It's like it still fucking happens.
They must have like not watched television either.
Right. Yeah. They're probably too busy helping out on the farm or. Or they just their family never moved out of like the town that that their ancestors came from went on the original like trip out west. So there are instances that can happen.
It's crazy. It's because, and for me, I'm just like, I'm just that person to me was more mesmerizing than like, oh, there's a black guy, there's an Asian guy. It's like I'm so used to that. It's like, where are you from? Like, are you from like, did you travel like from like past into the future? Like, it's What, where
Right.
did
Yeah.
you
At the
come
time,
from?
yeah, that's probably that. Yeah, because you were so used to it, and like seeing, encountering somebody who's never ever seen someone who was non-white must have been really interesting to you.
Yeah, but that's the thing too. It's like it's not because like people want to hate you. Obviously, like the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings are so you know beloved,
Mm-hmm.
and so now you're creating this like other thing, the story from what I've heard, because I haven't watched an episode of it just because I'm like because
Yeah.
of all
Neither
the
have I.
same thing
Yeah.
that we
'Cause fuck
talked
that
about,
shit.
because there was some legitimate criticism on it, and then you have like the actors and the people involved like, oh well, you're a racist, you're this, and I was like, no, it's like I refuse to watch your stuff because even before your stuff comes out, you're talking shit to the fans that like
Yeah.
actually.
You've already poisoned the well.
So I'm like, I'm not gonna support your show. And that's kind of like how all this stuff is. It's like if you were spitting in the face of your prime customer, your prime fan base, because they are, you know, because they are concerned about the a product or thing that they like, and not in like a hateful way. There's like, I don't think this is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you must be a transphobe or a thisphobe, and it's like, or you must hate this. It's like, no. It's like so that for me, I just silently just like, okay, I'm not gonna watch that. I'm not gonna buy that, and I don't buy like 30 like I buy like 30 cases of Bud Light just so I can machine gun it on social media or like set it on fire. I'm just like, you know what?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
The reverse virtue signal.
yeah. I hate
Which,
that too, to be
I
honest.
mean, yeah. I mean, I just like. I more like the fact that Kid Rock shot a gun that was fully auto more than
Oh, that was,
that he was shooting the Bud Light.
but see, I actually think that in his case, because obviously, like he was sponsored by Bud Light for like, God knows how many years. Like he was sponsored by Anheuser Busch for like a lot of his shows. He was a big supporter of them. You know, having him do that actually is pretty significant.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, if you and I decided, like, let's buy 30 cases of Bud Light, we're gonna shoot a video for our podcast. Taking a machine gun to Bud Light, it's like that would be ridiculous. And now we're supporting the thing that we hate
Right.
inadvertently. It's like it does nothing. So that's why you just say like you
Right.
show
Yeah.
the opposite of love is not hate. It's indifference. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm just not gonna buy Bud Light anymore.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like,
Because
like
it's a fine. Yeah. It was like, I don't know. There was a movie, but there's like a saying like it's a fine line between love and hate. So that means they're next to each other. They're not opposed to each other. They're next to each other.
exactly. They're two sides of the same coin. Because I love my wife, but sometimes I fucking hate her.
Yeah.
But I'm not
Dang it!
indifferent.
Then okay. Well, okay. Then I'm definitely more on the opposite side because I definitely am more indifferent towards her.
Exactly. And that's okay.
Although I remember I did figure that out like pretty early, and I remember kind of being like kind of douchey about it, or kind of a douche, like kind of like a Brian Griffin. I did put
Yeah.
on. I remember as a status on back when Facebook was relevant. I put like love me or hate me, just don't be indifferent towards me.
Yeah. And one of my favorite Dale Earnhardt quotes was him was like, it doesn't really matter if if they're cheering for me or they're booing for me, they're making noise.
Mm-hmm.
If you hear silence, that's a problem.
Right.
But yeah, it's just like
Exactly.
with all, I'm it's just to see where I think a lot there's a stronger vocal majority of the public that is like they're getting tired of this stuff, and I think we're starting to see maybe a shift in the other direction
Mm-hmm.
where okay, well, we're just not going to support your company anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And Bush has lost a lot of money this past quarter. Target's losing a lot of money. These other companies that are, I don't know about like with like Miller. I don't know how much they. I know that there was a dip in their sales recently because of their stuff going on. And honestly, I hope that there's some sort of what we need to get back to is companies just selling their product. Make a good product. People are gonna buy it.
Agreed.
And there, say what you will about like Budweiser or Miller beer or whatever. Yeah. Oh, they're it's there you get like the beer snobs like oh it's like hooker spit in my mouth. Or it's like listen to make a maybe it's not the best beer in the world, but it's consistent. You know what you're gonna get.
Mm.
And there's something to be said about that. It's comforting. It's like, yeah, it's not the best beer, but I like it. It tastes good, and it does the job. It gets me drunk. I mean, that's
You
kind
fucking
of the
fat
point.
girls in no time.
Yeah. Exactly. But like, don't. I don't understand. Like, you get like all this bullshit like behind us. Like, just stop. Just stop it. I just drink. I just want to enjoy my beer while I
Right. I just want to
podcast or
I
while I
just
play
want to get
games or I
loaded.
watch movies or just fucking hang out with friends. Or while I'm like taking crying in the shower. Like whatever. How do you drink your beer? It's like
Yeah.
it's
But
just like
yeah,
just let me enjoy
if
my
I want to
fucking
cry
beer.
in the shower while drinking a beer, I want to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But it's I'm
Yeah.
liking the momentum we're seeing in this thing. It's just I'm not even like I said I'm not advocating for companies to, like on our side politically. I just want to be like just give me the fucking product. It's kind of like why is there like advertising for like Coke or Pepsi or Budweiser at this point? It's like they're just coming like they're just regular commodities
Yeah,
at this point. Like who doesn't know what a fucking Budweiser is?
right. Yeah, they become like mundane. They're like background noise. We just know that these products exist. Like
Exactly. Like there's no like
yeah, it's like
accentuating
there's no. I
it.
mean,
Like it's
except
not
for
like
like
some
maybe a child. You don't ever go up to somebody. It's like, hey, have you had this drink? It's really great. It's called Coke. No, it doesn't happen.
Oh, exactly. It's like it's like hell to the point where like there's people who like, exclusively call any soda Coke.
Right, like any like dark kind of cola, they immediately call it Coke.
Yeah, like or there's a lot of products like that in our world when you think of like where it's
Right,
become
like, yeah,
so
brands have become nouns. Like Q-tip. That's a brand, but it's
yeah
a
it's not
Q-tip.
yeah it's
A Q-tip is just a con swab. A Kleenex is the brand of tissue, but everyone's like, oh yeah, hand me a Kleenex, even though there's like no specific Kleenex brand. They just colloquially understand any sort of like tissue to be Kleenex.
Ziploc.
Yeah, Ziploc. Yeah, Hefty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, give me a hefty. Like it's like that's
Yeah, he's like, no one says like, oh, give me a trash bag. Like, no, give me a hefty bag.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, give me yeah. It's like, hey, grab me a Coke. And it's like, well, I mean, if they throw me a Pepsi, be like, well, fuck you, like, but that's like, but no, it's like, yeah, give me a Coke, like, and you get a soda. It's like, okay, cool, like, or it's, yeah, Budweiser is so, you know, Miller beer, Budweiser, Coors, like those are so, I mean, so common. Like you just like, okay, like it's like back in the day, like when they had 3 channels on TV. That's what like that's like the 3 channels of beer. Like yeah, it. You want a Miller? Do you want a Coors? Do you want a Budweiser?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but,
it's glad to see the momentum shifting.
Right. But the overall the trajectory of like people like pushing back and finally realizing the power that they have, and I mean, I know this, I know it's kind of a no-no word, but like the collective power of of groups, like the people are finally realizing their power. I mean, like from the parents to like just like the consumer, and it's only getting more strong, more powerful. Just today, there was this demonstration, in Glendale because like supposedly the Glendale City Council, because again, Glendale is its own separate city, even though it's in the county of Los Angeles, its own separate city. But they're, the city council in Glendale, they're going to do some affirming thing, a declaration for Pride Month, and again, because of the neighborhood Glendale has a huge Armenian community there, like a huge group of Armenian, parents and people in general just like went out to protest that, and of course, and then of course like Antifa showed up, and I think that I think they got into a little tussle.
Wow. Yeah, it's like that's crazy, man. It's people don't realize like a lot of these like people groups don't like this shit, and I don't know, maybe we won't win that, but I think, like I said, we're seeing at least
Well, I mean, we're never. Here's the thing: we're never gonna beat them back into the closet. That's the thing. That's the reality of it. But we can't. But what we can do is limit the public exposure, because
I think it's more about setting defined boundaries. Like, hey, you know what? We don't care. We don't.
No, exactly. It's like exactly, and I mean, because even in biblical law, like the laws like in the Old Testament and stuff like that, what they were talking about is public displays. So like if you ever found, because that's why, like, how is anyone supposed to know if you're a homo and you perform sodomy unless you're doing it in public? And so really, like, the laws were to keep the filth out of the public square.
That's why Sodom and Gomorrah were like cast off into utter darkness, or like created. They were essentially like destroyed. It's because it was the blatant display of just debauchery.
Yeah, debauchery, degeneracy. Yeah. So it's.
But honestly, I could give a shit about these two guys who are married, who are like just going to town on each other at their own house. Like that's their business. I don't care. I mean, it doesn't appeal to me in any way, but like, hey,
exactly. I mean, everyone says, great. Yeah, people like lambast like Christianity and to like a lesser extent, Islam, because like Sharia law or like laws in the Old Testament. It's like, but what, like, is that saying like that the authorities were gonna go into people's houses to make sure that they weren't doing these things? No, it's what they were trying to do is keep it off the streets. They didn't want it around their children. They didn't want it in the public square. You know, if you were caught doing it in public, then yeah, you were gonna get stoned to death. But
Yeah.
how is anyone supposed to know if you were doing it, you know, in the privacy of your home?
Yeah, and I'm not even saying like too like where it's like, and I even might know about it, and I might be, and the thing is like I might even be that person's friend, and I actually would care about them. It's like, hey, you know what, whatever. But it's
Right.
like,
It's the difference between, you know, someone cooking meth, you know, in an abandoned, you know, warehouse, you know, downtown versus doing it, you know, in freaking suburbia, like you know, on like in front of you know, in a nice neighborhood where kids, you know, play stickball and stuff like that in the street. You know, it's
yeah, now those are two different things
those are two different things. One is like they're still both illegal, but one is just blatantly doing it out in the in public,
in the open. Yeah,
in the open.
it's exactly. So there's a huge fucking difference, and yeah, you're right, Andy. You bring up a great point on that because yeah, it's about doing it out in the open and just, hey, you know, I'm ass fucking this dude, woo, you know, it's like, or whatever. It's like, yeah, no one needs to know about that. We already know what's happening. It's just like, just don't do it. Like, just like, I wouldn't have, you know, I wouldn't do like, you know, heterosexual like deviancy out in the, you know, out in the town square. Like that's also just as bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not gonna just have sex out in the middle of, like, you know, like, out by the fountain. You know, it's not gonna happen.
Exactly. You know, it's all about it's all about containing degeneracy.
Exactly. So, and people are tired of it. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see it. Keep that shit behind closed doors, all right?
Yeah, and keep it up, everyone. Keep up, you know, keep up the pressure. Again, we're never gonna beat them back into the closet, but you know, maybe we could beat them back into their homes.
I think that's fair. Let's at least do that. Just like I'll keep my sexual stuff at my house, and you keep
exactly.
your
I won't talk about like how my penis needs vagina all the time, and you know, you don't need to tell me about, you know, your gross butt stuff.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm not gonna give you my Dick Diggler stories from. Like, you don't tell me about your other Boogie Nights affairs.
Exactly. All right. Okay. All right. Let's get into the next topic for discussion, and this is a topic that, you know, we visited quite often, but you know, it's such a deep and rich well.
Speaking of homos, right?
Speaking of homos, yeah. Yeah, JFK. And Robert actually has some new information to bring up and to discuss. So yeah, take it away, Rob.
So I don't know why, like, just it has come across my purview. Like, no one, at least in this country, is not familiar, or it has at least heard about the JFK assassination. That is you know, a generation ago, the 9/11. It was a huge event in American history. If not world history, or maybe it registered on the radar in world history. But you know, it kept coming across my purview the assassination of JFK. And we talked a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, about like the I watched the Oliver Stone movie JFK, which is a fascinating film. And you know that Oliver Stone has done a shit ton of research about like what had happened, and not just relying on the Warren Commission, which is kind of the quote unquote official government investigation of the assassination, but he has gone well beyond what the Warren Commission said. And so, like, 30 years after the movie JFK came out, he did have a documentary that was done called JFK Revisited. And it's all about, like, talking about the research into this film and how conspiracy theory has really become conspiracy fact. And this also correlates with all the documents that have been released, that have been declassified, and so that's what indicated why this documentary exists. And it came out 2 years ago. And what I just, but I know extreme time. I really recommend everybody watch. If you one, watch JFK, because yeah, it's a long movie. It's a very good movie. But then, like, after that, watch this documentary as well, because it's good supplementary for the movie. And one thing that I took away from it that I was just like blown away was that what happened that in Dallas was being attempted in other cities. There was an attempt in Chicago and in Tampa with really like down to the fucking detail. And this assassination was going to happen one way or another. And this, like I said, I'm not like a super JFK, fanboy or anything like that. But damn, like, this is just so weird. Like, the government wanted, they did. And we even about government corruption in so many different ways that it's just, if the deep state can kill a president, like, what chance do we have? You just because I would say, like, there's a lot of stuff that, like, on JFK's like agenda or whatever, like how he became president and all this other stuff, like, it seems like there was a lot of corruption there. But then, like, when he turned his back on, like, and kind of did his own thing to enact his agenda in the United States, and some of it, I think, some of it was good, but it spit in the face of the deep state. And so it's like, okay, well, we need to just kill this guy. And they did. And it wasn't just like one. Like, what happened that day in Dallas was not like, that was not the first attempt. They attempted it in Chicago, and they attempted it in Tampa, in Florida. But those were averted. But what was crazy about it is, like, the information that of, like, those events got, like, the Secret Service that was protecting Kennedy that day were not given that information. So they would have been a hell of a lot more vigilant in, like, staking out the book depository, the grassy knoll, everywhere in that area. They may have not even gone to Dealey Plaza, for all we know.
Yeah, that's actually one of the weirdest things about, because you would think, if anything, they would have secured Dealey Plaza, and then they would have secured all the buildings, and at the very least have had Secret Service agents posted up, at the entrances to, make sure no one, gets in there. Particularly one with, like, a long, like, rifle length case, and let alone, like, have positioned agents, up on that grassy knoll. Um, yeah, all of that seems just weird. Like,
This is there are a few things uh, in American history that are just so mysterious and weird. This might be the top of the list. This is the weirdest thing because witnesses' statements were not because the witness changed they were changed like they and where they even got to the point where it's like I never said that, and they were just you know you know being crazy. Or you had the autopsy fucking weird. Like so much stuff's changed or destroyed.
yeah, and
Like
yeah, they lost his brain. They lost JFK's brain. Like his brain was
yeah,
still during the autopsy in Dallas. His brain was still in his skull, but when it got to DC, it was gone.
yeah. They spent a good 30 minutes talking about just on the brain itself. It's so crazy what happens there. Like how because you have like the firsthand accounts and people, the people talking about that, and then where like there were the autopsy notes were destroyed. The initial autopsy notes were destroyed.
Damn, I gotta find
Some of the
this was actually in the back the PowerPoint presentation that my teacher shared with me, talking about this exact thing, like how like the brain went missing, and how the coroner's like autopsy notes were missing, and how like there's like that that shot of the casket coming off of Air Force One, but that was empty, and there's actually a helicopter that landed like just behind it with the actual body, and yeah, it's all kinds of nutty.
yeah, and it's also because this also does show a documentary show like how the movie like yes is the movie entertaining? Absolutely, but it is there's a lot of fact and stuff in that movie because a lot of characters that were involved and the real people
Mm-hmm.
and the things they said. This is they these guys constantly that were being investigated constantly changed their story. And when they were telling the truth, but then when there was some sort of like pressure from the outside put on them, I was drunk, I don't know, and they would tell the story all of a sudden. It's like what the fuck, and it was the case. There was something going on with this whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it just every time like I get to learn something about this thing, weirder if I can guess. Like this is, I'm not. Yeah, this is one of the weirdest stories in American history. I'm convinced now that like the government killed this guy for whatever reason. Maybe it was maybe he was doing some good and it spit in the face of people, the deep state trying to make money off of uh, the Vietnam War and all that. Like that's kind of seemingly like what the JFK movie and the documentary kind of talks about.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I don't know. Maybe it's something more than that. I really don't know why, but this is one of the most fascinating stories.
Yeah, we may never know. We were supposed to learn, or we were supposed to learn more about it, because Trump was supposed to declassify all of the JFK documents, but he mysteriously didn't.
It just keeps getting pushed further and further back, and I don't
Right.
I don't think we'll
Yeah.
ever get those
And I
documents.
think and I think and I think partly the reason why is because there are still some people that can be implicated for this, and that people and people who could still face the music for what happened.
Here's what I think though is the majority of the people that were involved in this are dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's over what 60 years, almost 70 years ago,
70 years,
now,
yeah.
right? So yeah, it was 63 when he died. So we're at 60 years right now, and it's most of the people that were involved are dead. But I think what happens is like why it hasn't been declassified like it should is that a lot, even though like we weren't alive at that time, it puts a lot of like, oh, well, if they did that back then, why should we trust our government now? What fucked up things are they doing right now that we should keep our eye on? That's why they don't declassify stuff.
I don't know.
Because the
I mean,
government was
perhaps.
involved in it.
I mean, perhaps. Yeah, you're probably right about that. Like, it just shines a bad light, on the government. And, like, if we found out that how involved the government was, then I think like the entire system might implode. But I mean, if people aren't freaking the fuck out, over the last 3 years, then no one they're not gonna blush at the stuff that the JFK documents are gonna reveal, in my opinion. And so that's why I think that there might still be some people that could be implicated, and that's why they're not releasing.
Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right on that. I don't know. I'm just like
because if everyone involved were dead, and because of old age or whatever, it's like then who cares? Like, they're all dead, and we're not gonna pass the sins of the fathers onto the sons. So it's like what harm is it gonna do? Unless there is still some people who could be implicated, and who could still face consequences. Because there's that meme about Ted Cruz's father, was potentially involved in.
That shit was fucking funny. Like, to be honest, I was like, I almost, when I heard that on the debate stage, I about spit out my water. I was like, what?
I mean, Bud Light, since the time.
Yeah, I almost spit out my Bud Light, and that when I heard that, I was like, what? He said that? Jesus Christ. But no, it's just, I don't know. I'm sorry. I keep bringing up like this whole the JFK assassination recently. I was like, I don't know why. It's fucking fascinating, man.
It is. It's one of the outside of the Lincoln assassination. This is this is the most interesting potential conspiracy in the history of the United States. Because have you looked into the conspiracy theory behind Lincoln's assassination?
Yeah, we actually need to touch on that at some point, because that's fucking weird. And we've kind of already like started talking a little bit about Lincoln and some of the bullshit that like he's not this like person either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wasn't this great arbiter for freedom and the American way. He wanted to fucking he wanted to control everything. And this Civil War thing, it gave him the opportunity to grab power.
Yep. Yeah, but like behind his assassination too, there's a whole bunch of crazy shit with that too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I think it's just fascinating as the JFK as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, those two presidential assassinations are the most intriguing bits of the United States history.
Yeah, I mean that both of those literally changed American history. Those two assassinations, for better or for
For
worse.
better or for worse, yeah. Oh, that's me.
And much less talked about are the because we've only had 4 assassinations of the president. There was Lincoln, there was McKinley,
Right.
was it Garfield was the other one, and
Was
then
Garfield assassinated?
it was Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley, and then
Kennedy.
Kennedy.
Garfield was assassinated? I don't recall.
I think it was James Garfield. Let me check that out. I think that's right. I think it was Garfield.
Okay. Presidential assassinations.
Yeah, it was. It was James Garfield that was assassinated in 1881.
Okay.
So just under 20 years after Lincoln, just under 20 years after Lincoln was assassinated. The second president assassinated.
Ah.
Then
And then McKinley and then 19 something.
And then 1901, I believe.
That sounds right.
Yeah, and then it was. But I don't know too much about those assassinations, which I might look at those, if there's any sort of weird things going on there.
What the what assassination?
But definitely. Well, the or McKinley being assassinated. So I'm wondering, like, is there anything like weird there that just no one really about?
Right. Yeah, that might be.
But like, when we think of assassination, Lincoln, that's it. Well, and then you can also into like Robert Kennedy's assassination. And we also have like leaders from Malcolm X and with the Malcolm X, that's a fucking really weird one.
Huh. Yeah.
But yeah, we've been talking. I don't know. It fascinates the shit out of me.
Yeah, and just like the little coincidences between Lincoln and Kennedy. Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy, and then Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln. Lincoln was shot in Ford's Theater, and Kennedy was shot in a Lincoln, town car.
Oh, yeah, it's like really, really weird like that. Was it Robert Todd Lincoln? Lincoln survived. He was alive. His dad's assassination. In political office when McKinley was assassinated.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Say if you have the Showtime, go check out. Well, one, watch JFK. Think JFK Revisited. I think you're gonna have your mind blown a little bit.
Oh, for sure you will. For sure you will. Yeah, it's the Kennedy assassination. It's a deep and rich well to draw from. I really need to find that CD-ROM.
Please do. I really want to. So you can like look at
Yeah, I know, right?
your library. Andy. Go.
I gotta go through. I gotta go through some boxes in the garage. All right, that'll do it for the topics that we had planned to discuss. So let's get into our movie review. Just to remind you guys, this month's theme is, what was it, antagonist as the main character.
Villain protagonist.
Villain
Our
protagonist.
main character is the
bad guy. Yeah, and to remind you all.
Go ahead and give us the. And I'm going to use the bathroom. So you I'll be right.
All right. Just to remind you guys, tonight's movie is A Face in the Crowd, starring Andy Griffith, Patricia Neal, Walter Matthau, Lee Remick. This movie came out in 1957. Directed by Ella Kazan. Yeah, let me hit y'all with the synopsis and we'll get going. An ambitious young radio producer, Marcia Jeffries, finds a charming rogue named Larry Lonesome Rhodes in an Arkansas drunk tank and puts him on air. Soon, Rhodes' local popularity gets him an appearance on television in Memphis, which he parlays into national network stardom that he uses to endorse a presidential candidate for personal gain. But the increasingly petulant star's ego, arrogance, and womanizing threaten his rise to the top. Facing the Crowd, starring Andy Griffith. Folks, don't come to this movie expecting this to be the Andy Griffith Show movie. This is definitely the opposite of that. So just be aware. He was so villainous in this role. It's it's like the first time for me, anyways. It was like the first time watching The Color Purple and seeing Danny Glover being Mister. Because I grew up watching the Lethal Weapon franchise and just like loving the character of Murtaugh. I love Danny Glover, but then and then I never saw The Color Purple during its time. I only watched The Color Purple in high school for an English class, and then seeing Danny Glover portray Mister, I was like, I hate Danny Glover. And this is kind of like the similar feel that I got watching Andy Griffith play this villainous character of Lonesome Rhodes.
I feel like this is his first film role, but I think this might be his magnum opus, because I'm not disparaging his time on television with playing the Andy Griffith Show or Matlock, because I enjoyed both those shows immensely. But there's something here in this role as Lonesome Rhodes. You have to go to a place to really be this character.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good writing, with the same team that did On the Waterfront, with Elia Kazan as the director, mm-hmm. and Bud Schulberg as the writer.
Uh-huh.
But it's kind of like I said, would you cast anyone else in this role? I mean, the only person I could maybe see doing this type of role, maybe Kirk Douglas, but then you would lose the aspect of singing and the country aspect.
Yeah,
that Andy brings to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Now that I think, no one else could play this.
Just in terms of his characterization of the character, and like his voice. Oh my gosh, his voice! Like the way he would shout, like kind of like just like his normal talking. It made my voice like hoarse just listening to him. And
God,
just
like that,
and just kind of like
that fucking fake, like that fucking laugh that he would do.
that force like ha 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 ha.
Yeah, it's like, or like like some of the songs that he would sing, like 10,000 miles away from home. It's like you. I've heard those songs like all since I've been watching this film all week. I've been hearing songs in my head, like even like when I'm like not watching the movie, like I hear those songs, I'm like, fuck, dude, he is so fake, but like he's fake, but there's like that becomes so like people think it, and they buy into it.
Yeah.
And
What is it?
god
He's
damn it, like this film.
well, partly what it is what is it? He's an honest liar. He calls out out everybody else. He would call out everybody else and like their thing, and so and he always like cast that. Hey, I'm no angel, I'm no saint myself, but this other person is worse, and like calls out everyone else's.
Back counter riddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's an honest liar. He was an honest liar.
God, yeah, that's a great way to put it because how many of those quote unquote honest liars do we see today and very influential um, things today? Because this film is just if not more so than it was in 1956. Like this might be like one. I watched this and I'm like, this is fucking happening right now. We see like these type of grifters that come through town and like, oh, like the great, he's so great, she's so great. Anything wrong? And it's like you know who I when I Lonesome Roads. I think of people like Oprah or
Who's that last bit? You're cutting it out there for a second.
Oh no! What I'm saying is like, you know who I think of today when I think of Lonesome Roads? I think of like people like Oprah or Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh yeah. Particularly like, Ellen DeGeneres. Like, because like there's no one who can say a kind thing about that woman.
No, but like I said, but what America's sweetheart for so long,
right?
Oh, she's so nice. She's so great. She's doing all these great things. She's influential, but she's a monster.
Yeah.
And she finally got called out for being a monster. And I'm sure, like in a couple years down the road, she's gonna come back and have another show, and she won't be as popular. Just like what Mel Miller, Walter Matthau's character, talked about.
Yeah, at the end, yeah.
Let's I mean, obviously, Lonesome Rose is like the big character in this film. He's going to be focused, but what do you think about like the other characters? What do you think about Patricia Neal's character in Marcia Jeffries or Walter Matthau's character in Mel Miller?
Well, firstly, I would like to say Patricia Neal is a very attractive woman.
She is. I agree with you. She's not. Her career is kind of weird because before this movie, she did have like a pretty big movie career that pretty much like did away. Like she was kind of a star about like 10, 15 years before this film, and didn't quite work out because Hollywood wasn't ready for her type of personality.
Mhm.
You know, she has a very husky voice. She's not like this proper female, but this kind of restored her career because right after this there was HUD and a bunch of other stuff that she did,
Mhm.
and she really is attractive though, like in her
Mhm.
way.
Yeah.
So I'm just actually kind of glad that you said that because I do find her attractive
Mhm.
in a lot of ways
Mhm.
because she's a she's an actress, but she's a normal woman at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Because like when you think of an actress, like you think of like the beautiful types. And I'm not saying that that Patricia Neal's not beautiful, but like she was like so attractive in this role, like and like which made her more beautiful to me. It's kind of like in
Oh man, too.
it's kind of like in for me the Firefly series. Um, you had Summer Glau's character River, and then you had Marina Baccaran's character, whose character I escaped me. But Marina Baccarin, she's more of like the conventionally like hot kind of person. And for those of you who don't know, like she played Deadpool's girlfriend in the Ryan Reynolds uh,
Yeah,
take
but
on the
she's still
character.
fucking hot.
Yeah, she's so fucking hot. But
Yeah.
then when I watched the movie Firefly Serenity, um, even though Summer Glau herself is an attractive woman, like she became more attractive in her role, her take on the character in the movie as opposed to in the TV show.
They're, oh yeah, yeah. You bring up yeah. That's a great point. That's exactly what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
And Patricia Neal is a very attractive woman, but like I think she because the role that she portrayed here, what because I think she was playing a version of herself. She was
Oh
just
yeah,
kind of like going.
there seemed to be an authenticity to her, and I think I'm not super familiar, but if I'm to guess from the portrayal that she gave in this movie, Face in the Crowd, it would be one where it'd be it's like and she was never like the starlet. She was always like the supporting like best friend. And then she's also she might have also been older, so she might have been relegated more towards those supporting roles as opposed to the main role or like the love interest type. But then in this one she got to she's kind of like um, the downplayed kind of attractive girl who finally gets to be the main girl.
Yeah. And I think and we're not going to be doing HUD unfortunately this month, but yeah, if you watch her in HUD too, it's kind of the same deal. She's hot in like not the conventional way, but like she plays this super authentic character who gets taken advantage of
Mm.
by Paul Newman's character HUD,
Mm-hmm.
and it's this, it's the same it's the same deal in a lot of ways. But
Mm.
here, I think what's so unique about her character is that she in her own way, not in a I don't think it's in a bad way, but, she discovers this in Larry Lonesome and tries to turn him into a star for for her own benefit in a lot of ways. And what she ends up doing is creating this Frankenstein's monster character. Yet at the same time, she's also like completely entrapped herself and becomes attracted to this person to the point where she's gonna marry him. Yet ends up just like everyone else in Lonesome Rose's life, just gets completely like spit out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, God, it's just that relationship is so complicated and weird and just you know I would almost love to see like a version of this movie where we see the entire film through like Walter Matthau's eyes, Mel Miller,
Mm-hmm.
because that is, I would say, like, if anybody, like, you and me would be Mel Miller, just because we see the deception, and we don't buy into the wizardry anymore. That's his whole character. He sees Larry as like the
Right.
Logan Road
Walter
as
Matthau's character is the outside observer.
yeah,
It's like he's brought on to for a specific purpose, but he doesn't he never really gets to shine because because he's supposed to be writing lines for Lonesome, but Lonesome is more of like off the top of the dome kind of like in the moment type of performer. And so like he still has a part to play, but it's not like as close to Lonesome as Patricia Neal's character's position is.
there's a scene too, like where uh, Marcia goes into the writers' room,
Mm-hmm.
and she meets back up with Mel and like the rest of the writers, and they're doing like all the like they're running lines for Lonesome, and it's like they're like in this like very like sarcastic way. It's like ha ha ha.
Yeah, very sardonic. Yeah.
Dude, that scene fucking that scene like, like I think in a way Marcia when she's around she's like right he's and doesn't really see that like she's becoming trapped, but like almost like when she's with Mel she's a little bit more vision. You're right, and but something like her heart that is stuck with Lonesome.
Well, I mean, it's a classic story. It's the girl is always attracted to the bad boy, not the nice guy. And so yeah, because of his brashness and his ability to buck social convention, that's what makes him attractive. He's dangerous. He's unpredictable, and so that what makes him attractive, as opposed to Walter Matthau's character, who's more straight laced, more of the predictable type. So it's a pretty old what's it, tableau.
Added.
Yeah, or yeah, it's a an adage. The girls always like the bad boys.
Yeah, the what's the other like thing I want to talk about this film? I would say the other thing that about this film, there is it was. Do you feel like with the ending scene, because she ends up was it the fact that he married so what ends up happening with Lonesome Rhodes is him and Mark, like, do you ever feel that like Lonesome ever really cared for Marcia in any sort of way, like in a romantic way? Like, do you think that like the thing, because it almost there's a part of me that thinks that like when those two are together, there is like an actual like there is maybe some sincerity, or do you think that it was all just a fucking act on Lonesome's part? Because he always seemed to like fucking betray her in the end.
Right. Just going off of what we're shown, it's like, particularly once we find out that there was an original Mrs. Rhodes. It's kind of hard to imagine that he would have strong feelings for any woman. But in the case, but in the case of Marcia, I think because he owes his success to her, he does have a slight affinity for her. But not necessarily a loyalty. He has an affinity for her, but not a loyalty.
Because I mean, obviously they sleep together on several occasions,
Mm-hmm.
and he does express his love for her and that he wants to marry her.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there was any sort of genuine? Was that genuine, or was that just genuine at the time, or like was that just all bullshit?
No, I think the Lonesome Rhodes character is one of a is an opportunist, and so I think he was only interested in Marcia insofar as uh, his career kept going.
Mm.
And so like yeah, even like and I think like at that I think and I even think partly that when he goes against the sponsors pre-approved script and it looked like he was going to get canned, he I think he maybe was more authentic with Marcia, right before they slept together. Not necessarily like he was trying to sleep with her, trying to use that kind of like, oh, I did bad, I'm sorry, kind of thing. But it's like he was like, but I think he did actually think that he would, um, I do think that he was more authentic with her at that moment, thinking that he actually did like mess up and uh, screw the pooch a bit.
That makes sense. Like I said, that was I think the challenge of this movie is figuring out like what was there any genuine feelings in Lonesome Roads, like, or was he all just opportunist bullshitter? And obviously, like we find out that after he proposes to Marcia, we find out that there's another supposedly another Lonesome Rhodes who is uh essentially she is blackmailing Marcia and Lonesome for money. Okay, and there is then Lonesome gives this what turns out to be a bullshit excuse to Marcia, like about the whole thing. It's like, oh yeah, it's like it was just I did force her, but like it wasn't like it was the judge was crooked, and so it turned out it was not a really divorce. And now I got to get a real divorce, and I got to go to Juarez in Mexico and get it done. But then you have where they have the that cheer, like I don't know if it was a cheerleader show or like some sort of
Drum majorette competition.
Yeah, thank you. The major show in Arkansas, back in the town where he started, where he got his fame.
Mm-hmm.
With his, they're playing that fucking Mama guitar song.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, which is a good song. It's fucking catchy. If anything.
Yeah.
And he starts to have this eye towards a major, this young majorette played by Lee Remick, who this is also her film debut,
Mm-hmm.
as Betty Lou,
Mm-hmm.
and that is also when so like one of what turns out to be his business partner who you have this another opportunist, maybe even worse than Lonesome, because he's also just as devious and fucked up as Lonesome is.
Right. Yeah. The former office boy of the mattress guy, who then sees that he has an opportunity to kind of jump ship and ride the rising star that is Lonesome Rhodes.
Yeah, Joey De Palma.
Mm-hmm.
He is just as fucked up, and you see him seeing Lonesome Rose's attraction to Betty Lou,
Mm-hmm.
and you know he has something in his mind. And I don't know if he's like this is like one of those like weird like maybe it's not pedophilia, but it's definitely like pederasty in some sort of sense, like where he's. I mean, the girl's 17. This guy is like what? It's got to be in his 30s at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got to be like what, 35, maybe a
Yeah.
little bit.
Let's say to early to mid 30s.
Yeah, which is fucking weird. Like that's kind of gross, you know. But you know, it's Arkansas, so and they end up getting married in Mexico, so they probably don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, and
Although
so
I've always argued that age of consent is marriage.
age of consent is marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I explain that, please.
Because particularly in the Christian context, if we're only supposed to if we're only supposed to have sexual relations in the covenant of marriage,
Right.
then the age of consent is marriage.
Yeah, but like, isn't it weird that some starry-eyed 17-year-old is infatuated by this like 30-year-old, like, or I would say maybe like 30-plus-year-old guy who is clearly a manipulator, and they get married like right after this. Like he obviously picked her for some reason for as the drum majorette winner. I don't know. There's something like weird about that. Like, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
yes, they
but
got
but are you
married.
saying are you saying that you wouldn't want a woman who's head over heels in love with you?
But she doesn't know what the hell she wants. I'm sorry, a 17-year-old does not know what they want.
I don't know. All I know is if a girl was head over heels in love with me, then
I don't know. I'm sorry. This is
I mean,
one of this
okay,
is
yeah, okay. I'm making the case for the extreme, but yeah, it is a
you're
little weird.
making
Granted,
the case for the extreme.
granted.
I do not agree with that extreme in any way.
Okay, I granted it is a little extreme. Okay, but even back then, it was still more socially acceptable for you know girls even that young to get married.
Yes, you were in that time period. Yes, you were correct.
Yes.
I just, oh God, it just seems a little. Yeah, and yeah, you're in some way in that time period. Yes, Betty Lou might be like a little bit more mature as a 17-year-old, like, um, but still, it's just fucking weird.
Yeah.
It's
But
so
also,
weird.
like, what
I
would
mean,
be better? What would be better if if the girl was head over heels in love with the man, or the man was head over heels in love with a woman?
okay, in
What would be better
that
for the
scenario,
relationship?
yeah.
What would be better for the relationship?
In that scenario, yes, it is probably better that the woman is infatuated with the man.
Like, more so, right?
But did you feel comfortable about that, about that situation
Yeah,
in general? Knowing,
don't get me wrong. Yeah, fucking gross. Okay, especially
no. I'm
particularly
not.
okay particularly in our current context. Yeah, it's a little icky.
No. I'm not talking about like our current context or whatever. No, I'm talking about like what we know about in the film because
Oh,
he has just proposed to Marcia, and we also find out about like his former wife who is blackmailing him,
right. Yeah.
and that he's
Okay.
supposedly going down to Mexico to get the divorce finalized, in actuality, and then he meets this young girl at this drum majorette thing, and then God knows, like if he ended up, they get married down and he takes her, gets married to Mexico, and then all that stuff.
Okay,
Like,
okay. In the context of him previously asking Marcia to marry him, and then going to the majorette competition, and then going to Mexico and getting married to that girl, yes, sleaze move all the way.
Okay, I think, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about this scene, now that we're talking about it, I just thought of something. I think that this is more of a Joey De Palma move because Marcia has a lot of power in this relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he probably told, like, in some, maybe in passing, he probably told Joey, Lonesome probably told Joey that he had proposed to Marcia. You know, because there is a relationship there between those two.
Mm-hmm.
So but like as they're doing this drum majorette thing, and he sees the wandering eye of Lonesome towards this Betty Lou character, I'm wondering if Joey had some gears running, or like to get Marcia out of like so that Joey could have more control over the Lonesome Rhodes empire,
Mm-hmm.
and to get Marcia out. I'm wondering if this is all part of this was constructed by Joey De Palma.
Okay, if that is the case, I get if that's the case, then why?
Because it's because he owned, like, so the Lonesome Rhodes empire, like, what, like, because he talked, like, later on in the film, after Joey fucks Betty Lou, essentially, and like, you know, and it's like, where, and like Lonesome was like, well, you're fired. It's like, you can't fire me. I own 51% of your company. Like, I'm the majority stock owner in your company. Like, you have no power over me. And it's more like, I can destroy you if I want to. That's what Joey was trying to do.
Oh, okay. So because he knows, because Marcia was a bigger stakeholder than he was,
right?
and
And so
so
we also see this happen throughout the movie, because he was just kind of this, like, underling to the mattress company.
yeah.
Well, he essentially, like, destroyed the mattress company guy, and kind of undersold him and kind of sold him out. Then he was he ended up, like, kind of creating that
wagon,
part of the Vitajex thing. And he ended up taking over that whole thing and sold out the guy that was the corporate account guy on Vitajex, and sold him out and pretty much put him in the poorhouse. And like, so on, like, slowly as we go on, Joey De Palma has climbed the ladder and, like, destroyed the people that he climbed over. So I actually wonder if he's the real villain. I mean, yeah, Lonesome Rose is a pretty, like, shitty character, but Joey De Palma is maybe, like, equally as bad, if not more so, because he has more power over Lonesome Rhodes than anybody else.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, like, that he's also a bad guy in this film too. Like, he's just more of, like, the hidden behind the scenes bad guy behind the face of this shittiness.
Okay. So yeah, so it was a power move. So he knew Lonesome was gonna marry Marcia, who, if them together would have majority holding over the entity, the enterprise of Lonesome Rhodes.
Bingo.
And so, I'm getting it now. And so, so he sees the wandering eye and of Lonesome for Betty Lou, and he makes like little whispers, talking about how, like, him finding love with, like, this young woman might be a good thing for his brand, and so he talks them into go and getting married in Juarez, which then leaves open for him to buy up more shares within the company.
Bingo. Yep.
Okay.
Which is
So him sleeping with Betty Lou is just a power move, saying like, oh, like you can't fire me because I own you.
yeah.
Okay.
Which is equally as fucked up
Yeah.
in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
But we at the time we kind of don't think about it. It's like, yeah, that's what Lonesome deserves because he's an asshole. It's like, well, yeah, but at the same time, this guy is like the real fucked up person behind the fucked up person,
Mhm.
and so a lot of people are getting screwed over.
Mhm. Right. Interesting.
Because after, like, well, and that then again after that scene, we don't really see Joey anymore
No.
because he probably has other ventures that he has taken over, like in the course of this power grab.
Mhm.
So he's not like because Lonesome Rhodes is not his only bucket of
Yeah,
influence.
it's not the only pie he has his finger in.
Yeah, exactly. It, I like as we were talking about this movie, I was like, oh god, yeah, fuck, I forgot about Joey DePluma and like how fucked up this guy is.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a movie that has a ton of freaking layers to it. I literally just like when I first stumbled upon this movie a couple of years ago, it was on Criterion there was a one of the themes a couple of years ago was on Elia Kazan movies,
Mhm.
which is this is one, and I was like, oh wow, like Andy Griffith was in a movie, like because I'm so used to him being Matlock or Andy Taylor from Mayberry, and I watched this is like, and it just fucking knocked me on my ass with how crazy this movie is because this is Andy Griffith as we've never seen him before.
Mhm.
He's this fucked up personality,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I ended up I bought it digitally because I just was so infatuated with this movie, and I've watched it at least like 3 or 4 times since I watched it first on Criterion,
Mhm.
and I was like, eventually we got to do this. I have to do this movie because or
Mhm.
review this movie. And yeah, even though like I've seen it that many times, and we're talking about it now, there's just like even the discussion has created me to look. There's more layers to this movie than I even thought. Because these characters are not like throwaway characters. Joey
No.
DePalma is super important, even though he's not really in the film all that long.
Mhm.
He kind of influences and uh, uh, in a more sneaky way than says like
Yeah,
Lonesome.
and if you think about it, Beanie's the only truly loyal uh, friend or companion to Lonesome.
Yeah,
Like
he really.
at the very end, like he's there, like as Lonesome's going off on his diatribe, he's there working the laugh machine or like the applause machine.
He's the only one that never abandoned that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Come hell or high water, that
Yeah,
Beanie.
even though technically he Lonesome abandoned Beanie first. When Marsha initially makes the pitch to him, like they're both walking down the road together, and he's the one that he gets in the car, but Beanie doesn't.
Yeah, why does Beanie not abandon Lonesome?
That's a really good question.
Is he just that good of a person?
Or maybe Beanie was used to be the one like who was kind of like the Jiminy Cricket to Lonesome's Pinocchio. Like he was like his conscience.
Maybe.
Like I
Yeah,
mean, if despite having like this charisma and this ability to persuade, like when we first meet him, he's in the drunk tank.
yeah.
He's not anyone influential. And
But
and maybe that's
known each other beforehand too, because like why are they walking down the road together?
exactly. Yeah, and I think that they were both locked up together at the same time. In the drunk tank. So yeah, so I mean, you could say that maybe Beanie was holding Lonesome back, or maybe he was keeping, or he was keeping, he was the only one keeping Lonesome on the level.
Oh man, maybe you're right. Oh, that's now I gotta watch this movie again, and I gotta look at this through Beanie's perspective. Like, even though we only see him for like a short amount of the film, like he is there throughout, like through like when he doesn't have fame, and then even when he does have fame.
Right, exactly. But it's like that crucial part to like when Lonesome's coming up. What would have been the trajectory if Beanie was there with him the entire time?
That's a great question, because I think there is a genuine nature, like when Lonesome's kind of going on his diatribe is like, listen, Beanie is like he talks about him being like that's his guide as far as like if Beanie doesn't think it's okay, that means that the American public doesn't think it's okay, and like I don't want to listen. I'm not
Right,
gonna.
exactly. Beanie's the one that keeps him grounded.
Dude, that's Andy. I'm glad we're talking about this film. This is fascinating stuff. Um, any other thoughts of like about Oh, apparently, like one other thing. And oh, by the way, oh, it's uncredited. Apparently, this is the debut of Rip Torn as well. One of our favorites.
Oh
Uh,
wow, Zed.
yeah, I forget which character he plays in this. He is. It's like I said. It's un. He play. Oh, he's Barry Mills, but it's uncredited. I think he. I gotta rewatch the film to see like where he's at. I think it's probably like just like a quick like little cameo thing, but like yeah, he does play a character in this film, and it's his debut in film.
Huh. Interesting.
So good old Zed from MIB is in this
Yeah.
film.
They use the old picture. It doesn't necessarily show up in the cast listing on Google, but yeah, I guess yeah.
Yeah, like
We'll have to look back at it.
yeah, it's
um,
uncredited. So yeah,
right.
it might not show up in some of the
I guess
cast
yeah, we can talk
listings.
about the conclusion um, to this movie, and essentially, Lonesome gets Gabboed, or Gabbo gets or Lonesome Road.
I am, dude, I am so happy you said that. That is exactly what I said in my mind. Like watching it, it's like, oh, he just got gabboed.
Yeah. Lonesome got Gabboed, and Gabbo got
I
Lonesome
hate these
Roaded.
little. Yeah, exactly. Dude, I guarantee this is the movie that the Simpsons is referencing
Oh yeah,
from
absolutely,
in that gap.
absolutely. And there's your Simpsons reference for the episode. For the reminder, for those of you who are unaware, but Gabbo was this new TV personality that came into town, and he quickly replaces Krusty, um, and because Bart kind of like in the Beanie kind of position, he's loyal to Krusty, and so he does everything he can to destroy Gabbo, but and in one such case, he sneaks into the studio and then tells a camera operator, oh, they're giving out free donuts or something, and so the cameraman leaves and he flips on the TV and Gabbo in his in full on candor tells says like, oh, all the kids in Springfield are SOBs.
Yeah.
To which initially, yeah,
man.
initially he does get some heat for that, but then he quickly does like kind of like the apology tour thing, and all is forgiven.
Yeah. man, yes.
But in this movie, what is it? Patricia Neal's character, Marcia, she's just like at her wit's end and lonesome. Like after he finds out that his wife is cheating on him and his business manager is like screwing him over in more ways than one. Um, he desperately reaches out to Marcia, and she gets there at the conclusion of his broadcast, and he it's like the old thing when like during local news broadcasts when they pan out and they turn off the sound, but you can still see them interacting, a la Anchorman, where they're sitting at the desk and they it looks like they're making polite conversation or whatever, but you can't hear what they're saying. After the show, he and his and him and the other cast members on his show are he's the one that's talking, and he's talking about how all the audience is the audience is are a bunch of idiots and they'll do anything I say, and and on and on, basically disparaging his audience. Marcia is in the sound booth, and the technician steps out for a quick second, and she flips the switch to turn on the microphones.
Well, he even says like, man, they could only hear what this guy is saying.
Right, and
like get to flip that switch.
Mm-hmm. And and that night he was supposed to put on this big gala event for the senator that he was backing. But once it gets out how he really feels about his audience, everyone just starts pulling away from him.
Yeah, it's just what that ending was just so fucking crazy, like, and it's like, and Beanie, like, he's trying to just kind of play into this like Shakespearean tragedy that is Lonesome Road, and just that like last spell of like 10,000 miles away from home, like he's trying to get, that's like the call to bring like Marcia back to him, and she just like, I think she had just completely had enough. Like Mel finally got to her to a certain degree, because there was still like this tug, like there's that link that I think that will never be broken between those two.
Mm-hmm.
Where she's always gonna think about Lonesome Roads, and she's always gonna have feelings for him as well.
Mm-hmm.
But she knew that the only way to like, she needed to kill the monster that she had created.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like destroying your own creation. Like it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, is she a very wealthy woman? Absolutely.
Right.
But it's more about the more about like the I think the all the other stuff.
Yeah, their relationship was very complicated. It's she slowly, gradually started falling in love with him, and she was responsible for his rise and his career. And like there was all like these mixed feelings, and you could see it like just kind of like her catatonic state after she did what she did.
Right.
And then but yeah, like at the end, when you kind of alluded to it when we were talking about Ellen, but the speech that Walter Matthau's character Mel gives, talking about like you could come back, but it won't be the same as before. Not with not with the acclaim, not with the accolades, not with the same prestige. But yeah, they'll bring you back, and someone will think of you. It's like, hey, how about we try this guy again? And and like, but like kind of like yeah, you'll get back, but it won't be as it was.
Right.
Like you'll never have the fame that you had now. And it's like leaving him like in that state, just constantly just like rambling on and on, and like and then Mel assuring Marcia like, oh, he's not the suicide type because, before Lonesome had threatened suicide previously, but Mel assures him like, yeah, he's not the type to do that. He's not, he has too much to prove. He has too many basically too many like I told you so's to give out to ever kill himself.
Right. God. This movie was phenomenal. I think this is a great way to start off this month for sure.
Oh yeah, this is a really great movie. I have to.
Do you have any other like final thoughts on Face in the Crowd?
No, no, yeah, just to say this is a great movie. Mm.
Well, Andy, since this is your first time watching it, why don't you give us your ratings?
All right. You know what? In an uncharacteristic uh, move by me, I'm gonna give this a 5.
Yeah, yeah. What's your reasoning, Andy?
Um, this from everything from casting to performance to even just like set design. Everything about this movie was like spot on. Like take any one thing or like recast any one character because like there's not one throwaway kind of character in this in or at least in like
No.
well, at least in the main two supporting um, characters. But yeah, so if you even if you replace Lee Remick, it'd be a different movie. If you replace the actor who plays Beanie with somebody else, different movie. Um, if you didn't cast Patricia Neal or Andy Griffith, completely different movie.
Andy Griffith especially. Yeah, this is a completely different fucking movie.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean it wouldn't be a movie, but I'm just saying like it's a very
It,
different
it
movie.
wouldn't have been a 5 star. It wouldn't have been a 5 rating for me if it was anybody else.
Yeah, I'm with you on this, Andy. Like, it's a 5-star movie. I think it's just as relevant. Maybe it was like, to be honest, I think it's more relevant today than maybe it was in 1956.
Right. Yeah, I mean it kind of talks about like the pharmaceutical industrial complex with like the Vitajex thing and talks about grooming politicians and grooming perceptions and garnering influence.
Yep. So there's that aspect, and like you said, I don't think you can recast a single character in this film. Like this is a perfectly cast film. It's perfectly shot, and this is based off of a short story, and they differed slightly from because they did cast Andy Griffith, who does have such a uh, his musical ability is really good because he's all those songs that he's doing, all like the little jingles and shit. That's all Andy Griffith. That's him doing that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and the songs are memorable and catchy. Um, which is kind of like when you're thinking of this like shyster type character. Yeah, you want to have a good catchy theme song or like theme songs
Mm-hmm.
that he puts on.
Yeah, even like the nicknames that he gives to people, like Mel's character, he's constantly refers to him like Vanderbilt's 47 or 44. Yeah,
Yeah,
just the little nicknames that he gives to people they're catchy. I mean, it's not unlike a certain political figure that used to inhabit the Oval Office.
yeah. I did too. Honestly, there's so many articles I read that talk about how like this movie predicts Trump. It's like, it's like, come on, guys. All right.
I mean, they're not wrong, but
It's not wrong. It really is. You're right. It's not. They aren't wrong, but it's definitely like you can. All the articles I read are very left leaning,
right.
where it's like honestly, when it should be like kind of more towards the center because it this is what's happening on every aspect. To be honest,
Right. I mean,
um,
yeah. I mean, you could just look at. I mean, with less charm, and with less charm, yeah, that's just, it's the same thing as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like who was literally cast for the role of senator.
yeah,
You know,
uh,
I'm not
but yeah,
not to diminish her or anything, but like yeah, she does have like to her fan base, she has influence. She and to her fan base, like she is charming to her fan base.
she is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
I
particularly
can't
find her charming,
or track.
or intelligent or attractive. I mean, that's what paper bags are for. Uh, uh, that's what again, that's what paper bags are for. But yeah, but she still has influence, and like she's yeah, she's just not the opposite of Trump. She's a reflection of Trump.
Two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this, like I said, this movie is so fucking good. I'm so glad I was able to introduce it to you finally, and we got a chance to talk about it. But yeah, 5 stars, awesome. Watch it, check it out. This is, if you're especially not only is this a good film, but I recommend people go and watch Elia Kazan movies because they're all really good. Like On the Waterfront, this
Mm-hmm.
movie, there's a lot of them out there. It's just he's a great director,
Mm-hmm.
and this is like I think the second go around with Bud Schulberg, who's also a really good writer. Um, also helped write On the Waterfront as well. So
Mm.
that's all I got to say.
All right, there you have it, folks. That's our review for A Face in the Crowd. Both Robert and I give this a 5. You won't regret this. This is such a good movie, and I do, for those of you, kind of like Rob's wife, who have prejudice for, black and white movies or, movies made before the year of their birth, please do try and, get past those particular prejudice and watch this movie objectively. Okay, just objectively watch this movie, and I promise you'll enjoy it.
God, yeah, agreed.
All right, folks, that'll bring us to the end of our stream tonight. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I know Rob always has a good time.
I had a great time. Oh, by the way, Andy, we forgot to mention our new episode of ours came out. Where we talk about the steel helmet with our good friend Santa Claus came down for a summer treat. It was Christmas in June for us, talking about the steel helmet, and we also got a chance. Dan the Man was on there. Even though Santa Claus came down, he talks to Jews too, and
Yeah,
and we talked about our favorite war films with
that's right. Yeah,
with Santa.
The latest episode of the Circle of Jerks podcast has dropped. Do give it a watch. It's a fun episode. Talking about a really good movie, in the steel helmet. And also talking about and you wouldn't believe it, but Santa has stories about Nam.
Who would have thunk?
Who would have thunk? So if you if you want to hear some Nam stories from Santa, give that a watch.
Damn, it was that episode was a lot of fun, and I was actually really pleasantly surprised that we all had different war films that we really enjoyed. So it kind of made that part of the discussion interesting as well.
Mm.
So yeah, go ahead and check that out, and thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. So something to check out on the main podcast, Don't forget to also check out previous episodes of this stream, Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's Gaming Show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter and Letterboxd, at Circle of Jerks, or at Podcast COJ, excuse me, and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us. Come back next week and we'll do it all over again. Have a good night.